Good day. Okay, there's CW and Sister Rebecca. I didn't see anybody there yet, which I can understand. It's rough getting up in the morning. I'm having a hard time myself. Today is Tuesday, January 28th. Wow, 2025. Almost to the end of the month, the cold month. It's actually relatively warm today. It's 33 degrees, and I did not make that a Masonic number on purpose. And we're getting some snow squalls. Good day, Sister Jeannie, and good day, everybody else who is joining us. We're going to continue. We're going to continue with give yourself credit. Money doesn't grow on trees, and you may ask yourself, that's not a Catholic topic, but it does relate, a lot to faith and to Catholic faith in particular. So we're going to touch on that today, and I will we'll get to the Good Day Rising prayers. Again, please say an extra prayer for CJ and for Luis. Stop saying Let's get started with Good Day Rising prayers. In nomine Dei, matronam nostra, et Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Let us place ourselves in the presence of the Most Holy Catholic Trinity and in Catholic contemplation, humbly venerate the Divine Family. Most Holy and Venerable Holy Trinity, one Divine Family, I believe that Thou art here present. I venerate Thee with the deepest humility. I render to Thee with my whole heart the homage which is due to Thee. O Most Holy Trinity, I firmly believe that Thou art one Divine Family. Deum matronam nostra, et Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. 3 in 1. And relying on Thine infinite goodness and promises, I hope to obtain pardon of my sins, the help of Thy grace and life everlasting, through the merits of Deum Iesum Christum et Deum matronam nostrae. O Most Holy Trinity, I love Thee above all things with my whole heart and soul, because Thou art all good and worthy of all love. I love my neighbor as myself for love of Thee, and I forgive all who have injured me, and ask pardon of all whom I have injured. Let us thank the Most Holy Trinity for the many graces that we receive, and offer ourselves and our sufferings up to heaven, and for the souls in purgatory. O Most Holy Trinity, I most humbly thank Thee for all the favors Thou hast bestowed upon me to the present moment. It is again thanks to Thy bounty that I should live to see this day, and I desire to employ it solely in Thy service. I consecrate to Thee all my thoughts, words, actions, and sufferings of this day. Sanctify them, that there may be none that is not animated by Thy love, or that would not tend to Thy greater glory. Let us make a firm resolution to avoid evil and to do good, and let us beg of the Most Holy Trinity the graces which are necessary to us. O Most Holy Trinity, Thou knowest my weakness, and that I am unable to do anything good without the help of Thy grace. Deny me not Thy grace, proportionate to my necessities. Give me strength to avoid everything which Thou forbiddest, to practice the good which Thou hast commanded, and enable me patiently to bear all the trials which it may please Thee to send me. O Deum matronam nostrae, Mother of God, I place myself under Thy protection. I throw myself with confidence into the arms of Thy compassion. Be to me, O Mother of mercy, my refuge in distress, my consolation in suffering, now and at the hour of my death. O Most Holy Trinity, as envisioned by Saint Lucia as the Most Holy Trinitarian Theophany, Dea matronam nostrae, Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. I am heartily sorry for having offended Thee, and I detest all my sins. because I dread the loss of heaven and the pains of hell, but most of all, because I've offended the almost holy Trinity, who are all good and deserving of all my love. I firmly resolve, with the help of thy grace, to confess my sins, to do penance, and to amend my life. So things are shaking up as well here in New England. I don't know if you had heard, but there was an earthquake off the coast of New Hampshire and Maine, right there off of Portsmouth and York Harbor. Initially it was a 4.1. They downgraded it to 3.8, which they always do. And I was reading some history there about the earthquakes that we get here. And it's nothing compared to, California and even the lower central U.S. But it's significant because it means that the plates are moving. And the last time there was a significant one here in New England, when I say significant, I mean like 5, was, I believe, in the early 1900s, and then going back before that was the mid 1700s. So they say. All right, dates are always changed, and nothing can be trusted, but they do kind of give you a clue that when we have significant earthquakes during those time frames, something's happening worldwide. And I looked at the earthquake map that I have on it's called My Radar app. I can choose the layers, and I put earthquakes up, and there's a significant amount now where there used to not be that many significant of earthquakes above 4 and 5. And we all know that the volcanoes are active as well, much more so, like it's up 30%. And again, I have my theories and, the stuff that I've been learning about the magnetic pole moving, and the dynamics and the sciences of the Earth. And it's hard to get that round image of the Earth out of our heads. But that's one of the greatest deceptions they played on us in the 1900s. But stationary, flat, not moving. It's amazing. Anyway, things are happening. All right, we're going to continue on in the back of the book. Again, the lawful basis for acceptance for value. So acceptance, we have to learn definitions. We have to learn to, when we get told something, or when somebody says something to us, we have to stop and back up a little bit and listen to the words that they use and make sure that we agree on the definitions. Language is very important so that we have an understanding, that we can agree, so that we can contract. Okay, the devil is contracted with God, if you will, the Most Holy Trinity. He has to get permissions. So there's the lawful basis for acceptance of value. So acceptance means that there's no controversy. You're accepting it, but for value. You're accepting it, but it has value that you can use. Okay, so, quote, no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. Article 1, Section 10, Constitution of the United States of America. I'm going to confuse you if you haven't done this history and study yet, but there's two constitutions. The Constitution for the United States of America and the Constitution of the United States of America. I'm not going to get into that now, but you can contemplate the difference. And this is where the deception and wordplay always comes in with these guys. The Europeans who came to North America were grub-staked by others, probably the East India Trading Company and the Bank of England. These trading companies and banks had already been working in Europe using these laws of merchant, or law of merchant, which included international bills of exchange and promissory notes, because they were dealing with countries from far away and shipping and all that sort of thing. They kind of realized that they had to have some sort of common way to trade that everybody understood and accepted and utilized. The Europeans, so they were, there was, it's interesting too about the story of Columbus. I don't want to get too divergent here. But the story goes that he was Jewish and he was supposed to convert or be kicked out of Spain. And so he decided to make a deal and go to explore, discover North America. And then after doing that, they realized that there was this huge, the likes of Columbus, if you will, and the bankers and whatnot. All they see is money. They don't see value in people. They see profits and ways to become rich. So it was a huge venture that required the investment of money to get it started. So the colonists got their start based on hard money loans back in the days of hard money, usually gold and or silver. Once the colonists were established, that's why you hear all these stories of these shipwrecks with gold, all right, because that's what they were trading, and they needed that. Once the colonists were established, they came together and incorporated. They incorporated in order to deal with the collective burden of the debt. All right? So you see, a debt is such a problem all throughout history. That's why it's best to avoid it. The first incorporation was under the Articles of Confederation. The purpose of the Articles was twofold. First, to protect the interests of the creditors, and secondly, to protect the assets of the colonists who were working to establish a new economy and a new country. Later, it was found that the Articles were weak in dealing with international contracts and the enforcement of admiralty maritime concerns. So in other words, the colonists who came here weren't that adept at figuring out the wily ways of those law merchant people who were probably taking advantage of them. And so they came up with the Articles to try and to protect themselves by forming a group. But then they realized that they were weak. So the Articles were rolled into the Constitution for the United States of America, which pulled together the loose ends left by the Articles. Now, since the people were trying to stave off bankruptcy liquidation and preserve the fruits of their labors, of course, because they were taken advantage of, the Constitution operated in a bankruptcy reorganization mode. And since it was operating in bankruptcy, the law form of the national government had to be admiralty based on cargo hold insurance. And again, this was this history here is according to the basically the English side of things, the British side. Okay, because there were explorers and so the New England and the British side was the Protestant, and then the southern and the western was the Spanish or more Catholic. All right, and you don't hear too many stories about problems in that. You hear about how St. Augustine, Florida, was this thriving, wonderful community and city. You don't hear about all this turmoil with Admiralty and whatnot. So there must have been some more sense of honor, let's just say, and virtue. Okay, the virtues, that's got to be there. So anyway, this is focusing, and again, this is written by a Protestant, so you can tell. So we want to, so we're trying to understand how we got into this situation that we got into. Since the people were trying to stave off bankruptcy, liquidation, because, again, there's no care for each other. It's just, what can I get? The law forum of the national government had to be Admiralty based on cargo hold insurance. Bankruptcy reorganization exists in Admiralty law, while bankruptcy liquidation exists in common law. This is an important part. And after I talk about this, we're going to stop. Bankruptcy reorganization exists in Admiralty law, while bankruptcy liquidation exists in common law. Common law was mainly for the people. Admiralty law was definitely for the law merchant commercial enterprises. Therefore, common law has always been offensive to the national government. Okay, so that if somebody became bankrupt or couldn't pay their bills, their assets were seized immediately and dispersed, and it was done with. Okay, so it happened quickly. Liquidation. And why was that offensive to the national government? Because it ends the bankruptcy quickly. It doesn't drag on for hundreds of years, which is what has happened here with this Admiralty law reorganization. If the U.S. government just went bankrupt like it was supposed to and end and get liquidated, and then a Catholic one would come in, which should have happened, but they weren't wise enough back then to realize that. That would have saved a lot of this slavery, this Protestant slavery that we have. And I call it Protestant because it's as a result of that. There is this distinction between the bankruptcies operating in the national versus the state governments. Okay, the states function also on common law and liquidation. It's only the national government that exists with the reorganization. So again, these small hats look much more long-term than most people do. All right, they plan way out. And this is what happens. But later, when the national government was forced to stop using gold and silver for money, it ceased to mint it and even passed a law demanding that all U.S. citizens turn in their gold. And once the gold was turned in, they made it illegal for U.S. citizens even to own gold. This caused a dilemma in commerce. If there was no money, how would the people carry on commerce? Really radical stuff that they did there in 1933. Well, as a substitute for money, the government went to the Law Merchant Law Forum for the solution and adopted notes and bills of exchange. or what has been called negotiable instruments. Law merchants had successfully used notes and bills for centuries with complete success, so their way of accounting in trade and commerce was adopted for use by the citizens of the United States. Now, I'm going to dispute that claim that it had been used successfully, okay, because if you read, there was this study on the law merchant and the Dutch East India Company and the East West India Company and all these massively wealthy groups. And what we learn is that they use this trickery of paper in order to take advantage of the sources of their product. So when they would buy bulk goods from countries, they would pay them in paper notes. And the people were like, what good is paper notes here? And they said, well, you can do this and you can trade with this and blah, blah, blah. And it ends up the first one who receives the note usually gets the raw deal, because then he has to go chasing from there. So again, it's kind of a deceptive situation. But it does work because the majority of the people get fooled into believing that you can get something from this paper, which we do today. The dollar bill, take the dollar bill out of your pocket, okay? We use it because we believe we get something from it, but it's just paper and it says it's a note. Nothing of substance. So the U.S. took up the use of bills of exchange and notes under the Negotiable Instruments Act of 1800 of the 1800s. I think it was 1866, of course, 66. This later evolved into the Uniform Commercial Code, or the UCC, which states the rules and regulations of commerce using notes and bills of exchange instead of silver and gold. Now I'm going to stop here for that. What time is it? Quickly, because I just saw it. With this new form of money, a new form of accounting had to be introduced. It's called the double entry bookkeeping. Now, if there's any bookkeepers out here, you know, and we were taught very little bit in high school and in schools about double entry bookkeeping, the balancing of credits and debits to reach equity or a zero balance. It gets confusing because to try to understand it, because it kind of doesn't make sense. It does, but it doesn't at the same time. It's not a simple system. The zero balance in double entry bookkeeping has become a stumbling block for many who do not realize that this is the system of accounting under which we are operating today. Okay, we individually usually don't use that. We don't use double entry bookkeeping. So if we're running our checkbook registry, all right, that's straightforward single plus minus balance. Okay, but the double entry is debits and credits. In other words, if it can be determined by double entry bookkeeping that equity and fairness exists, then everyone is satisfied and we go along our way. If the bookkeeping did show that there is inequity, then we must stop and make adjustments to restore fairness. All right, so that is where when we have not been taught that we are operating in unfairness because we don't understand this double bookkeeping method. And once you begin to understand it, how now all of a sudden it's totally imbalanced, totally unequal. It's inequitable. There is no equity. Equity meaning fairness, if you will, one for one. and we can't see it, okay, because it's hidden. And they throw out these numbers of $14 trillion in the national debt. What does that mean? Okay, that's the whole point. We need to get to a Catholic system to undo all this deception and clear out all this nonsense, so that we can say yes when we mean yes, no when we mean no, and be able to trade very simply, like most of us do now. But we have these things that are over our heads that we're required to do, but not really. But we were never taught. So we'll continue on tomorrow with this Giving Yourself Credit book, because I think it's very important. All right, let's begin Mass. One thing about the earthquakes I've noticed is that they've become more shallow. They're not as deep as they used to be. So they're actually felt more and further. Deum vobiscum et quoque bote, oremus. O most holy Trinity, the Creator and Redeemer of all the faithful, grant to the souls of thy servants and handmaids the remission of all their sins, that they may obtain by loving prayers the forgiveness which they have always desired, who livest and reignest with thee, one divine family, forever and ever. Suscipe Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum hoc immaculatum hostiam, quam ego indignius famulos tuos offenditibi Deum meum et verum, pro inimicibus peccatis et offensionibus et negligentis meis, et pro omnibus circumstantibus, sed et pro omnibus fidelibus, Catholicorum, vivisatque defunctis, ut mihi et idis proficiet ad salutem. Deum qui humanae substantia dignitatum mirabilita condidis et mirabilis reformasti da nobis, Pedius ad cortavina mysterium eius divinitatis, esse consortis qui militatis nostrae, fieri notis is pater Deum Iesum Christum Filium, qui tecum vivit et reinat in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Offerimus tibi Deum calicem salutaris tuum da peccatis clementiam, ut conspectu divinae majestatis tuae, pro nostra totius mundi salute cum adore suavitatis ascendat. Spiritu humilitatis et in animo contrito suscipi amarate Deum Iesum Christum et fiat sacrificium nostrum et conspectu tu holiae, u placiat tibi Deum Matronam nostrae Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Veni sanctificator, Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, et sanctificite plata prosequendo, et accepere hoc sacrificium tuo sancto nomine praeparatum. Suscipe Sancta Trinitas concobrationem cum tibi afferimus honorem passionis, resurrectionis et discensionis Deum Iesum Christum, et in honorum Deum Matronam nostrae et Papa Pete Sanctorum et Distorum et omnium Sanctorum, ut idis proficiet ad honorem nobis autem et salutem, et idi pro nobis intercedere in interim caelis, quorum amorum agimus in te Spiritum Christum Deum nostrum. Orate, ut meum equestrum sacrificium acceptabile fiat apud Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Suscipiat Deum Iesum Christum sacrificium de manibus tuis et laudem et gloriam nominis sui, ad utilitatem quoque nostram totiusque ecclesiae suae sanctae. Deum vobiscum et quoque pote, surusum corda habemus a Deum. Gratias agamus Deum nostrum, dignum et justum est. Te ecit obligatis in notere Patere Deum Matronam nostrae Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum Deum Iesum Christum Filium Tuum Deum nostrae. supplices rogamus ac petimus, uti accepta habeas, et sanctificas haec sanctum sacrificium ilibata. In primis quae tibi afferimus pro ecclesiam tuam sanctam catholicam, quam pacificare custodire honori et regere dineris toto obiterarum aeque catholicae. Memento Deum familiarum creatuorum. We pray for the sick and the suffering. We especially pray for Luis Cantu, Katie Gage, R.M., Neil and Earl Lively, Maria Josephina Mose, Robert Dosco, Jr. and Sr., Robert Santa Croce, Letitia, Mindy, Clarette, Mark Jr., Henry Barber, and Benedict Santa Croce, Mr. Nobody. The Cantu and Duarte families, the Michaela McLarnon and family, Sarah, Becky, Jenna, Lena, Lori, Aaron and family, Maria and the Lineweber family, the Dosco Nye, Tafour, Began, Wolf, Kane, and Kendrick families, and Begans. We pray for Mr. Nobody to receive the funding and strength needed to complete the first Sedevacantis Catholic Council office in Monastery of Illinois and remain in good health. We pray for an end to all governmental allowance or sanctioning of abortion, transgenderism, transhumanism, child trafficking, child abuse of any kind, anywhere, place, or time. We pray for the establishment of the Catholic monarchy with a sound Catholic system of labor, human value, medium of exchange with no usury, to stop this nonsense of AI and transhumanism especially, to stop this integration of diabolical injections to try to create Borgs. We pray for courageous men to step forward as leaders in their, wherever they are, in their companies, in their work, in their homes. We ask that all quote-unquote gay marriage be banned. We ask for the reversal of the feminist ideology and a return to godly femininity. We ask that all food producers stop adding ingredients that do nothing but harm the body, especially if they're targeting men. We ask that women come to understand that raising traditional Catholic families is a very high ideal and a necessity for sustaining a Catholic society, that it's their responsibility to keep their bodies clean, both internally and externally. We ask that all quote-unquote OnlyFans platform be stopped immediately, and all pornography as well. We ask that respect return to the young ladies, to remove their piercings and stop getting tattoos. Those are all satanic invitations. That they wake up and see the peacefulness and the love of the Most Holy Trinity, which we ask all these things to be accomplished through, according to the Holy Trinity's divine will. Et omnium circumstantiam quorum tibi fides cognita est noto devotio pro quibus tibi afferimus, vel qui tibi affrontox sacrificium laudis prosse suisque omnibus, pro redemptione animarum suarum, prospe salutis et calamitatis suae, tibi credunt volta sua, aeterno Deum vivo et vero, communicantes et memoriam venerantes in primis gloriosae semper Deum maternam nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et beatorum martyrium tuorum, Papae Sancte Petri, et Sancti Lucia, et Sancti Jacint, et Sancti Francisco, et Sancti Juan Diego, et omnium sanctorum tuorum quorum meditis praecibusque cancedas ut in omnibus, protectiones tuae munum et exidio per in Christum Deum nostrum, quam oblatione de Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum in omnibum, consecratum acceptabilum quae feceri dignidis ut nobis corpum, et sanguim fiat didictissimi filium tuum Deum Iesum Christum, qui pridie quam patoretur recepit panum in sanctus aqua nobis manus suas, et derivatis oculis in calamite Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum suum omnipotentem tibi gratias agens. Consecravit frege didiquilumis sui dicens, accipit et mandocate ex hoc omnes. hoc est enim corpus meum. Simini modo postquam ceremone est accipienser hunc precladum calicem in sancta sacra honorabilis manus suas item tibi gratias agens Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Consecrave dedique lumnis sui dicens accipite et bibite ex omnis. Hic est enim calix sanguinis mei mysterium fidei, quae pro nobis et pro multis effundetur in remissione peccatorum. Haec vetus cum purificeritis in memoria facetis. Unde et memores Deum nostro virtui, sed a plebs tua sancta justum Christum filium tuum Deum nostrae, tam beati passiones nec non et in felis resurrectionis, sed et in caelos gloriosa escensionis affedimus, praeclarae maiestati tuae de tuis donis actatis, supra quae propitio ac sereno vultur respicieri digneris. Supplices te eragamus Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum Ilei preferi per manus tuum, ut quod, ex occultaris participationes sacrosanctum Deum Filium tuum, corpus et sanguinem sincerimus, omni sanctificatione caelestia gratia Dei per amor per Deum Christum Deum nostrae. We pray for those who have died. We especially pray for Robert McCarthy, for whom this Mass is being offered. Ipsis Deum et omnibus in Christum quis gentibum locum refugere illucis et pacis, ut ondorge est plac amor per Deum Christum Deum nostrum. Pequam hic omnia Deum Iesum Christum semper bona creas, sanctificas, vivicas, consecratis et praestas nobis. Per ipsum et cum ipso et in ipso, est ibi Deum Matrum omnipotentium unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, omnis honor et gloria. Ave Dea, Matronam nostrae, gratia plena Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum tecum. Sanctam tuum in mulieribus Dea Matronam nostrae, Materam Deum Iesum Christum, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Libera nos quaesimus Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum ab omnibus malis, praeteritis, praesentibus et futuris, et intercedente beata gloriosa semper Deum Matronam nostrae. Cum Papa Petrum Sanctorum et omnibus sanctis da propitius pacem in divus nostris. Ut ope misericordiae tuae aduite et peccato, simus semper liberi et ab omni perturbatione securi. Per iendum Deum nostrum Iesum Christum Filium tuum Deum nostrum, qui tecum vivit et reinat in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, per aeternam. Pax Deum Iesum Christum sit semper vobiscum et quoque potei. Haec mixtio consecratio corporis et sanguinis Deum Iesum Christum fiat excipientibus nobis in et salutem aeternam. Pax tecum et quoque apotei. Deum Iesum Christum, qui ex voluntate Deum Matronam nostrae, qua parante Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum per mortem tuam unum vivificasti, libera me per hoc sacro sanctum corpus et sanguinem tuum ab omnibus iniquitatibus meis, et universis malis et facere tuae semper in halare mandatis, et atinum quam separare permittas, qui cum eodem Deum Matronam nostrae et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, vivis et reinam aeternam. Percepto corporis tui Deum Iesum Christum, Quod ego indi nius sumere praesimo non mihi proveniat in idicium condonationem, sed pro tu pietate prosit mihi adutamentum mentis secopris, et ad medelam percipiendam qui vivis reinas, cum Deum matronam nostra in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Panem celestem excipiem et nomen Deum Iesum Christum invocabo. Deum matronam nostrum non sum dignus, ut intercedete meis in tanti requibus napaternam mea. Deum Iesum Christum non sum dignus, ut intercedete meis in tanti requibus napaternam mea. Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum non sum dignus, ut intercedete meis in tanti requibus napaternam mea. Corpus Deum nostrum Iesum Christum custodiet anima mea. Quid retribuum Deum Iesum Christum, pro omnibus quae retribuit mihi calicem salutaris excipiem in nomen Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum invocabo. Laudans invocabo Deum matronam nostra et ave inimicis meis ausero. Sanguis Deum nostrum Iesum Christum custodiet anima meam. Quod orisum sumus Deum Iesum Christum punimente capiamus et immunum et approefit nobis remedium sempiternum. Corpus tuum Deum Iesum Christum quod sanguis quam batavi et hediat visceribus meis apraesta, ut in me non remaniat scelero macula quam purat sancta reficerunt sacramentam. Deum vobiscum, et quoque te, oremus. May the prayer of thy suppliants profit the souls of thy servants and handmaids, we beseech thee, O most holy Trinity, that thou mayest free them from all sins and make them sharers in thy redemption, who livest and reignest with thee, one divine family, forever and ever. Deum vobiscum, et quoque te, ite mis est. Deum gratia. Faciativi sancta Trinitam obsequiam servitutis mea et praesta ut sacravicem corocolis tuae maestatis in illus autoritatis et captabili, mique et omnibus proquibus irut autoritatis sanante perpetuale et per Christum Deum nostrum. Sanctificat vos omnipotens Deum, Matronam et Filium et Spiritum Sanctum, Deum Matronam Nostrae, Deum Iesum Christum et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Gratias. O most holy Trinity, I believe, I venerate, I hope, and I love thee. I beg of thee pardon for those who do not believe, do not venerate, do not hope, and do not love thee. Most holy Trinity, I venerate thee profoundly, and I offer to thee the most precious body, blood, soul, and divinity of God Jesus Christ, who was, is, and ever shall be present here in reparation for the outrages, sacrileges, and indifference by which he himself is offended, and through the infinite merits of his most sacred heart, and the immaculate heart of God our Lady, who was, is, and ever shall be, I beg of thee the conversion of poor sinners. In nomine Dei, Matronam Nostrae, Deum Iesum Christum et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Gratias. All right, thanks for coming. Good day, Greg. Howdy. Do you have your cowboy hat on today? All right. Might be a good day to have one on. Please go and sanctify all those who meet. Again, please say a special prayer for CJ and family. And I guess that's it for today. All right, we'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Have a great day.